Let's say you want to contribute to a large open source project, like React or VS Code. Are you supposed to know how the entire codebase works? Good news? No, you don't. But then, how do you even get started? If you feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start, you're not the only one. I'm Leonardo, and in this video, I'll show you how to approach a large open source project. First of all, start small. Seriously. If your expectation is to develop the new greatest feature as your very first contribution, chances are you're definitely overshooting. Bonus points if you don't even know the project. The suggestion here is to start with something you're familiar with, for example, a tool or a library you're using in your daily job or in your side projects. And the reason is quite simple. Onboarding will take way less time since you might already know what to expect or how the project works. To make sure I don't get misunderstood, I'm not saying you must know everything about the project's internals. At least having a general idea of the tool or what it does and how actually it is using it will make your life way easier. In particular, when it comes to evaluating how tricky an issue could be or what kind of features you could suggest and later implement. If you never use the software you're trying to contribute to, you might end up spending a lot of time just to get started, and this can also be quite frustrating. The next chapter is project setup. Now that you decided what project to contribute to, the next step you might expect is to find an issue to work on. Well, wrong answer. The first thing you should do is to read the contributing guidelines. I know, it's boring, but trust me, it is important. If you're more into practical stuff and less into theory, then the first step can actually be trying to run the project locally. This might not always be as easy as running npm install and npm run, and that's why there's usually a section in the contributing guidelines explaining exactly how to do it. Once again, reading the docs. And here, this is one of the easiest way to contribute to the project, improving the documentation. How? A really common case is that the documentation is either outdated or missing some information. In that case, you can simply open a PR to fix it. It might not seem like the most exciting contribution, but think about it. If you can spot a problem during the setup process, this will likely also affect other people. So by either fixing the setup issue or improving the documentation, you're actually helping the project and the community behind it. The tiny documentation update you're doing today might be the reason why someone else will be able to contribute to the project tomorrow. This can have such a huge impact to the project. Next step, we have follow the rules. But I know you want to write code, so let's get into that. One of the main reasons to pick a project you're familiar with is that since you're already using it, you probably have already some ideas about possible improvements or nasty bugs you'd like to see fixed. The time to create an issue has come. Even if reading the docs is boring, if you haven't checked the contributing guidelines yet, it's now definitely time to do that. What could go wrong? Well, we're talking about large projects, which are likely receiving dozens of issues every day. The only possible way to handle from the maintainers is that there are some rules in place. For example, there might be a template to follow, or at least you should try to provide as much information as possible. But what happens if you do not stick to the rules? Your issue might get closed without even being considered. So read the docs and follow the rules. To be clear, it's kind of acceptable to close an issue if it doesn't follow the rules, and it's just a way to keep the project maintainable in a timely manner. Can I take the shortcut and create a PR without an issue first? Not necessarily. Some projects have the rule that PRs must be discussed in an issue before being opened. This is mainly to avoid wasting time on PR that might not go toward the project goal or that might not be accepted for other reasons. Again, it's all about not making anyone waste their time. It's sad to have your PR closed after you spent so much time working on it, but it's even worse if this could have been easily avoided by simply following the rules. If you're just fixing a typo in the docs, you can probably skip the issue and open the PR directly, but if you're working on a new feature or on a bug fix, it's always better to open an issue first. Okay, but what about the code base? Let's get back to our first question. Do I need to know how the entire code base works? As we already say, the answer is clearly no. Especially in large core bases, more often than not, there isn't a single person knowing everything about the project. It's just too big. So even people working full time on it might only have knowledge about a portion of that. As a first time contributor, you can start by trying to get an overall idea on how things work only in the part of the code you're trying to contribute to. But how do you even get there? After 4 minutes talking about this topic, I can finally mention the label Good First Issue. This is a label that is usually applied to issues that are considered a good starting point for new contributors, usually because they do not require a deep knowledge of the code base and the issue is well explained and scoped. And this is actually what makes an issue a good first issue. Since at this point you probably have no idea where to look at, the issue description is supposed to guide you through the code base and explain what you need to do, how to get started, and things like that. If you're still feeling kind of lost, don't get frustrated. Reply on that issue to inform that you're a new contributor, you'd like to work on that issue, and you're in need of code pointers. Wait, what is a code pointer? In short, you're asking for some hints on where to look at in the code base to get started, and this is usually the name of some functions or directly the line of the code where you should start. Sounds great. With that said, let's get into the conclusion. At this point, you have the project running locally, you have an issue to work on, and with the code pointer, you exactly know where to get started. What's next? Well, time to write some code. You will need to for the repo, clone it locally, do your changes in a separate branch, and create your pull request. If you're not too familiar with this process, here's a video explaining step by step how you can do that with GitHub Desktop, the official GitHub client to work with Git. And with that said, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!